hasn't always been that way. Well, hey guys, this is Kenneth Moss from Depew Orthodontics here in beautiful Atlanta, Georgia. I am on the phone or on this call with Cathy Hazen from Mike Lanzetta's office in, tell me where that's at, Cathy.
We're in Detroit. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight.
We're glad to have you guys. Cathy and I have very similar stories. Didn't have a whole lot of ortho experience when we moved into practice management, and we've managed over the course of the past few years to very successfully grow our boss's business in a real meaningful and measurable way. And of course, OrthoFi was a huge part of that, and that's what we're here to talk about. Both Cathy and I have roles in multiple facilities, so we're open for questions at the end of this. You guys will get our email addresses, but you can certainly chime in at the end, and we'll answer any questions that we can for you guys. Okay. So these are our brands, DOS and Dr. Lanzetta's, and then of course Depew and Atlanta Orthodontic Arts. Cathy's got 2 facilities, and we've got 3. These are our groups. I thought about it a little bit too late. We probably should have added pictures of ourselves, but I will tell you guys that we are beautiful people. No question about it. These are our teams. Cathy's up top, mine down below, and then of course Dr. Lanzetta, and then Dr. Depew in the upper left-hand corner, and a couple of our offices. And Cathy, I'm just going to take the first couple of slides, and then I'll let you dig into the meat of this. Part of this deck is really talking about core competencies, and what your core competencies are in your practice. And for us, I mean, it's orthodontics. It's straightening teeth, it's fixing bites, but unfortunately, that's not all that your patients expect from you. They expect quite a bit more. There's a lot of pressure out there, and Cathy worked in car sales before this, so she knows that everybody's discretionary income is being pulled in a lot of different directions. And the bottom line is the people that we talk to have more pressures on that income, and a lot more distractions, and a much shorter attention span. And when they're in your practice, they expect a whole lot more than just a good smile and a great bite. They expect you guys to be customer service experts, child behavior experts, philanthropists. Cathy and I get into divorce law a lot. Law degree on how to deal with how parents pay for medical expenses after they've been divorced. And so all these kind of external things that we have to manage is really a great case study for why a product like OrthoFi exists, because aside from the divorce law piece, they have added a tremendous amount of value. And for those that are on the call, you might have heard this a few minutes ago. I'll share with you guys a little bit about our practice, and Cathy can tell you about theirs. We literally have doubled the size of our practice in the past 5 years. And for Dr. Depew's office, that we had been doing it for 25, 26 years. We didn't add any buildings. We didn't do anything spectacular. But after 5 years of me being here and us working with OrthoFi, we start twice as many patients. I was saying earlier that in July of 2014, before OrthoFi, we started 56 patients, which is a fantastic July for us. This year, this month that we just got wrapped up with, we started 132 patients, and we're all really proud of it. But the bottom line is that we'll talk about this. OrthoFi allows you to scale up so that you can actually do that without having a whole bunch of pain points. So
our growth in starts is 70.6% since we went live with OrthoFi in 2014. But the greater number for me is our production has grown by 85.7% since we went live in January of 2014. And the growth has just been so simplified by having OrthoFi in our lives.
So Cathy, if you don't mind, tell everybody, I pulled up the next slide, what their core competencies are and what value, they've added for you guys. And then I'll share what they've done for us.
One of the key points for me in sales and car sales and in business has been looking through the lens of the customer and having that relationship built and making sure that I'm always looking at how can this be easier and better for their experience, because I always know if I chase the experience and I can create that relationship and give them the experience that are better than what they're expecting, the dollar will follow. So chase the experience, not the dollar. And what's beautiful about OrthoFi is they truly look through the lens of the consumer, whether it be us as practices and then also our consumers, our patients and their families. So the technology piece is mind-blowing. It's fantastic. The interactive health history form, we just had a huge update with that, where now our families get it via text. And we're finding that the health history forms are being completed within less than a half an hour of us texting it, or I should say OrthoFi texting it to the family. It's making it, the technology is so high level that it's making it so easy for our families to be able to come in and start treatment with us. So we're not mailing forms and we're not asking them to download anything. They just answer some questions, and now it's as easy as getting a text, answer a few questions, and they're ready to rock and roll and come in for the consultation.
And Cathy, they can do that on their telephone for those health history forms. Quick
Right.
question.
They can do it through their mobile device.
Yeah. What percentage of your patients are coming into your practice with their forms completed?
For us, we're averaging, I'm going to say easily 90 to 95%, if not 100%. We had 21 exams today, 20 completed, and I believe every single one of them had the OrthoFi forms completed prior to yesterday.
Yeah, and we're in the high 90s, and what that means to everybody listening is that they don't have to come in and give you all their paperwork for you to input. They don't have to fill out, get a clipboard and fill everything out. It's all online. It's very intuitive. It's really simple, and people are so accustomed to this these days that I think it's really the standard. And if you're not there, if you don't have a product that allows you to do that, unfortunately, it's not keeping up with the times. So yeah, so we're probably 85 to 90% on that, Cathy.
Yeah, we have a great success rate with the technology. We love the interactive health history form as an entire team. We're really, and the new update with it going to the text message going to the parent phone is amazing because they're completing it so quickly. Personally, I love the pending management because of coming from a sales background in automotive sales, knowing that, follow-up and the pending management is so incredibly important. So as a treatment coordinator myself, because Kenneth and I both still are active treatment coordinators in our practices, we personally like using the pending management system so that we can more easily follow up with those that don't start today. And we're both of our practices are big same day start practices. So we're looking to try to get the families to start. And then OrthoFi helps with that too, by making the decision process so much easier. But if they don't start today, the management of pulling up today, I can go in, I can see who I need to follow up with is right there. It's very easy, but I love it from a management standpoint too. So all of our doctors that are on this call, you can easily go in and see where your treatment coordinators are at in their follow-up. And I learned from a very wise woman who is a great influence and mentor in my life, Bridget Burris. She said, people don't respect what you don't inspect. And what's so nice is Kenneth and I and our doctors can go in and see how all of us are doing in our follow-up and managing our follow-up.
Yeah, and I'll give you guys a little bit of personal history for Cathy and I. The first time I met Cathy was at an Invisalign presentation for treatment coordinators here in Atlanta. And the thing that really endeared me to her as I sat there and listened, and again, she said I'm an active treatment coordinator because it's true, is that she said, how do you guys feel about follow-up? And so there were probably 30 TCs in the room, and she said, I hate it. It sucks. And I was like, man, me and you are on the same page because I hate it and it sucks too. But like Cathy said, it gives you the ability to systematically follow up with folks in a timely and efficient manner. And in addition to that, from a management standpoint, we can see how well our TCs are performing with their follow-ups. So really, really cool stuff.
I love the management part of it. It's just so easy for us to be able to sit down with our doctors and tell them exactly how our team is doing, our TC team. The insurance part of it is a huge, humongous. Personally, I am so incredibly in love with the insurance part of it. It's probably one of my favorite parts of OrthoFi. When we opened our Invisalign only practice in downtown Detroit, for the first year and a half, I was the only employee. And the reason we were able to do that with just me and the doctor was because of OrthoFi. OrthoFi was another team member for me. And it was this amazing team member when it came to the insurances, especially. The verification is so spot on and solid and quick. The submitting of the claims is very flawless and easily to do from a practice standpoint, but really OrthoFi is submitting that claim for us. They're helping chase on the insurance receivables for us, which is, typically a stressor in each practice, and
Sure.
an area where we practice managers and doctors stress and worry about, those insurance receivables being managed properly. And it's so fantastic. It's such a non-stressor for us in the OrthoFi world, because OrthoFi is right there with us, helping us chase those claims and making sure we're getting paid.
Well, and I think it's safe to say that nobody who's on this call this evening went to school for 7 years to chase after insurance money, right?
Amen. Right. And so it's just, I mean, for me, just having that insurance component is worth every dollar we've ever invested in having OrthoFi in our practice,
Agreed.
because it's just, again, from a practice management standpoint, I can just go into my insurance receivables. I'm basically just kind of looking to see what OrthoFi is doing, because
Yeah.
they're doing all that work for us. They do all the heavy lifting for us. And most importantly, I feel like the insurance verifications, every office tries their best. Every one of us has always done our best in verifying insurances, but we make mistakes. And as TCs, we put the wrong amount in. We miss that it's a 50% and not 100%, or we miss the amount, that we're allowed to put in, and we put the wrong amount in, or whatever the problem is. And what I love with having OrthoFi do it is the accuracy is so much better than when we did it in office.
Yeah, and again, it just speaks to being one of their core competencies, and really, again, a good case study for why you third party these things out. It's what they do. They're professionals at it. So
Yeah, they're phenomenal. The billing and collections, we're going to dig in deeper with that in a couple slides. Kenneth and I both, this is another really big, important piece to us as practice managers, because, the two of us both are, in a situation where we are every day trying to make our practices more profitable so that we are more successful as practice managers. And the billing and collections aspect of OrthoFi, one with how they follow up on the collections, is phenomenal. In today's day, so many of our collection situations are just compromised debit cards or whatever the situation may be. And it's not someone in the team that's chasing on all of that. It's OrthoFi doing that for us. And they have such a beautiful system down that before I even realize a payment might have failed the first try, it's gone through the second time, because OrthoFi is so on top of it.
yeah,
And
and it's nice too. Kathy, it's nice too to have a little delineation between us as the good guys, and from a collection standpoint, OrthoFi as the bad guy. They're the one that gets to have that conversation, and their ability to do that and do that well is really, it can be expensive, right? And so they manage collections so well and tighten it up so much for us that just that improvement in and of itself is paid for OrthoFi for this practice. Not to mention the unbelievable growth that we've had.
Right. And then I think too, with like the collections, another huge component that OrthoFi brings in is the slider and the flexibility of the payments, which again, we'll drill deeper in that in a few slides. But again, it's easier to manage because we're putting people on payments they can afford. And that's a key component to what OrthoFi brings to your practice, is making it so your families can easily afford. And we are the most expensive practice. We're not the cheapest practice you can go to in our area. And so that's
Same here. Yeah, same here. We're a premium practice. So yeah.
Yep. The analytics are phenomenal. This is one thing where my good friend Kenneth is much better as a practice manager in the practice when it comes to the analytics. But what's nice is I still know how our practice is doing so much better today than I did prior to OrthoFi, is because the reports are so easy for me to use. And so I don't have my MBA, and I can very easily at any given time talk to Kenneth, talk to my doctor, Dr. Lanzetta, about where we're standing right now today in our performance and how how we are trending. So the
Right.
analytics are phenomenal.
Yeah, it's, I mean, you don't have to do any extra work to figure out what your conversion is, what your start number is, what your average case fee is, what your average discount. I mean, it's everything that you need. All your key performance indicators or your KPIs are really at your fingertips, and because it's all web-based, it pops up, really, really quickly.
The growth, I mean, again, Kenneth and I were just talking a little bit about the growth, but when I look at our growth since we went live in January 2014, and we're sitting here today at 85.7% production growth since we went live, the growth is completely mind-blowing. And I think too, again, the ease, it's the simplicity, it's how easy OrthoFi helps us make this scary transition for them. Families come into expecting this horrible experience, like it's going to be so expensive and the braces are going to hurt and it's all this negative. And what OrthoFi did is it helps make it a much more pleasurable experience for our families. Now they can find a payment that easily works for them, and so they go and they refer more easily because the process was so much simpler for them than what they expected.
Yeah, and I can tell you, I mean, one of the biggest contributors to our growth has just been the improvement in conversion since we went to OrthoFi. We went up right under 5 points. And so if you're doing 1,000 exams and you increase conversion by 5 points, that's an extra 50 starts or $250,000 to your top line. So that was one of the ways that it also helped pay for itself. So not only did it really compress our bad debt because of our inability to chase after it in a real and meaningful way, they came in and applied the appropriate amount of pressure because they're professionals, right? And then the uptick in conversion helped us, in a really, really big way.
Well, and I always say, like, it was a tool that I didn't realize I wasn't giving our TCs to help them be more successful. So every TC is doing their best, and we lay all this expectation on them to start cases. But what are we as their team leaders and as their practice managers, or as the doctors, what are we doing for them to help them be more successful? And this is an amazing tool that you give your treatment coordinators so that they can be more successful.
And I couldn't imagine the pain that they would tell me they're going through if I took this away from them. Right.
I don't think I would work in a practice without it, to be honest with you. So
just so everybody knows, they're not paying us anything.
Yeah, no. We don't have stock.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Kenneth and I do not have stock in OrthoFi.
Yeah, we don't. Yeah, there's no monetary benefit from this conversation with you folks tonight. So,
and the customer service is mind blowing. Sorry, Kenneth, I got to give a huge shout out to my guy Kevin. Kevin is our success manager. We all have success managers. Their customer service is next level. There is no other resource in the orthodontic industry that delivers customer service like OrthoFi does. In the beginning, I used to joke around about how I could call with the same question 10 times and they would never treat me any differently because they knew I knew I'd asked that same question 10 times. But the level of relationship and service that we get from OrthoFi, Justin, every time I call, I get him on the phone. He's amazing. He's so incredibly smart. And as consistently, everybody on the OrthoFi team wants to figure out how to make our practices more successful and our jobs easier. They genuinely want to do that for us.
And it's not just because we do these presentations. Right?
No, it's not. It's just this level of service that they give each other and then they deliver to us. And
the other thing too, Cathy, is from a patient-facing standpoint, it's the same level of service. They treat patients like the Ritz-Carlton treats their guests. I mean, they really do a wonderful job with both the practice side and the patient side.
Amen. Absolutely.
So this just says that they wear more hats than a hat rack, and that's the truth. From eligibility checks to filing the claims to underpays, overpays. They're all over everything, whether it's insurance or delinquency management. It's really impressive. And we thought that we were really good at it until we had somebody else do it who was a professional at it. So
Agreed. And again, like I said, the perfect example with that is the fact that we were able to open a practice and have minimal staff because OrthoFi was standing there as a teammate with us.
Right. And here are some of the numbers that they've posted up and some of the assistance that they provided to the practices that have them in their office. Cathy, go ahead.
Yeah. So, I mean, just the level of production that we've seen as an entire family of OrthoFi practices, being over $1 billion is again, mind blowing when you think about like we're all experiencing this level of growth and production in a matter of 5, 6, 7 years.
Right.
The level of delinquency so our Kenneth and I both have default rates that are under 2% or 1%. And that's not just us, that's all of us in this OrthoFi family. And that's another thing about the customer services. We really all do become very connected with each other and resource off of each other. And OrthoFi really helps create this culture of this village of all of us OrthoFi practices being in this together with each other and helping each other. But all of us are experiencing these very low default rates because of the fact that we have our families and payments they can afford. And then the collection rate, I mean, it's just collecting 98%. I mean, none of us were collecting 98% before we had OrthoFi.
That's right.
It wasn't happening. And then I think I really think the insurance collections is, for at least for me personally, it's so strong. I mean, 2.7, I would challenge any office to be able to have that kind of output when it comes to their insurance receivables.
That's 100%.
The slider, I mean, the slider is, to me, I think the psychology behind the slider is crazy awesome because you're giving the family total control. So what I've found is a TC, I hand the iPad to the family. I show them, the parent, how to use the slider. I really think that what this does is it gives the family their dignity to be able to truly pick a number that works best for them. And I know a lot of offices that sit and negotiate, what can you afford to do today? But you're making them verbally tell you that they can't afford to do $1,000 or $1,500 or $700.
Great point.
What Kenneth and I and what every OrthoFi office has is the ability to hand the family an iPad and let them keep their dignity and be able, if they have to select $250 down, we offer that. I think I saw on your slider, are you guys offering as low as $50 down?
No, we're at $250.
At $250, okay. Mm-hmm. So, if they have to take $250 down, take $250 down. Like we offer it. So Dr. Mike, I always say to every family, Dr. Mike doesn't care what numbers you pick. The thing that he cares about is that you pick the best number for your family's budget. That's what matters to him. So you find the best numbers that work for you, and I show the families how to use it, and then I give them some privacy. So if they got to take $250, they take $250. And what you're going to find from in a slide or two and forward is that there really aren't that many people taking $250.
Yeah.
Cash in hand actually goes up when you have OrthoFi. At least that's what we found, is our cash in hand actually increased by having OrthoFi. It's all about giving total control. Yeah. My husband is a perfect example. I would come home with this, I'd give him the iPad, and he would love it because he's getting to dictate what we're going to do. You're not telling him what we're going to do.
Right. And again, to your point, given the freedom of choice, what we find in our practice, because, $250 is a scary number. If you thought everybody that came in your practice was only going to give you $250 and you were going to send them out with Invisalign or Incognito or a full set of braces, that would be a pretty terrifying thing. But we'll share with you what our actual same-day cash number looks like in a little bit, because the bottom line is not everybody picks $250. And this next slide really articulates that. Cathy was mentioning that. This is just a dot graph that shows you two things. We've got the monthly payment on the left, and then across the horizontal, we've got the down payment. and both ranging from 0 on up. So what you find is people are all over the place. They'll pick monthly payments that are as high as nearly $800 because that makes, sense for them. And you would never, I would certainly never present that as an option.
No.
But people absolutely select it. And, most people fall into that kind of $0 to $1,000 range for their down payment, and that $0 to $250 range for their monthly payment. Now, we set our minimums at $75. So if they've got a big insurance benefit, they might have a payment as low as $75, but nothing less than that. And then on the right-hand side, what you see, and this is, our numbers are a little bit lower for pay in full, but we're close to 20% pay in full. I don't know where you guys are at, Cathy. Off top of it?
We're a little low right now. We're at 17%, but we were at 21% for the entire year of 2018. Yeah.
And so that, you're averaging out about $1,300 and some change same day cash. The folks that pick down payments are going at, $834 across the entire enterprise or across all OrthoFi practices. Our numbers are a little bit higher than that. And then of course the last one there is going to be what your average plan is. And Cathy and I both looked at ours, and ours fell right in line with that 21 months. So even though they've got the option to pick up to 36 months, but those plans carry some interest. I think ours runs up to 6.9%, which is great because it almost covers the write-offs that we do each year. So those interest charges are really kind of a risk management tool. And so when we do have to write some AR off, it's often covered by what we have charged in interest across the accounts that have it. So
agreed for us too.
All right, Cathy, tell them about this.
I love this. The slider, again, the psychology behind the slider is, I just think of my own husband. And so you're sitting in a practice, you hand them the slider, you explain. Again, as a treatment coordinator, I never touch the slider myself. I actually show the family how to do it. So in the car business, we always wanted you to take the car home and make sure the truck would fit in the garage. We're always trying to get you to park it in the garage, because if you park it in the garage, you're going to buy it. Yeah. And so I always the first thing I do is get that iPad in their hand, because I want to park them in the garage. Take some ownership. And so I always say, this is how this top line works. This is your down payment. Dr. Mike doesn't care what numbers you pick, just as long as you pick the best numbers for you and your budget. I probably say that 2 to 3 times as I'm explaining or going through the financial part of it. So you show them what their total investment is, and that's up at the right-hand corner. And you say, your total investment's going to be $5,660. If there's insurance involved, it'll be listed there, showing them what their insurance benefit's going to be. And then you say, this top line is your down payment line, and we want you to make sure that you pick the number that works best for you and your family. So if you take that little radio dial and move it, I can show you how this works. Again, I'm trying to park them in the garage. And so I have them move the radio dial, and I'll say, if you go all the way over to the right-hand side, I'll be able to show you what our pay in full discount is. The courtesy is 5%. I have them slide to it. Again, I'm not ever touching it. I'm having them do it. And oftentimes they'll slide all the way so they can see what the pay in full discount is. And then I'll ask them to move to a number, just as an example. And again, the reason I do that is because oftentimes that's a number they pick. And so, go just pick any number so I can show you how the monthly payment works. And then they'll move it to, whatever number it works for them monthly. And so again, I very quickly go through how to use it. And then I'll say, I'm going to give you a few minutes to use this. I'll be back in just a couple minutes. I find an exit strategy, whether it be go get them a water, run sterilization, run my mirrors and things to sterilization. But again, the reason I do that is because oftentimes I walk into the office and I do have a very high same day start. Because when you're sitting there and they're not using the iPad, now I have the ability to say, hey, Kenneth, I see that you selected $200 down. That's awesome. The next step is it's going to take you and I about 5 to 10 minutes to complete your down payment and contract. I see you selected $200 down, $182 a month. And you know what? Congratulations. Welcome to the family. We're going to have your Invisalign here in 4 weeks. And I just roll right into assuming the start.
Nice. It's perfect. And it really is, from a patient-facing standpoint, the slickest presentation that's out there. It is so super intuitive and easy to use, for sure. This is on the back end. This is what your TCs see. Cathy is a much better TC than I am. No. But this tool allows me to basically level the playing field, because now I'm able to see what's important to our patients before I even bring them into the consult, because this is all completed Cathy said she's in the 90% range. I'm in the 85% range. I always have visibility to this before that consult starts, because even if they don't do their paperwork at home or their online forms at the house, we give them an iPad when they get there, and they're going to complete this, and I'm going to see this. So if they're, they don't care about down payment, they don't care about monthly payment, all they care about is the quality of treatment, I know that that's our customer. I mean, we obviously have very flexible financing terms as a result of OrthoFi, but my customer is one that appreciates quality over price. So
yeah, and I think the treatment time is another really good one. I love knowing if treatment time is their main concern, because our average treatment times are very low. Dr. Mike is an absolute wizard when it comes to being an orthodontist. So his average treatment time is 14 months. So I know to be able to focus on that. So I do like the cheat sheet.
Yeah. I mean, it's very helpful. This slide just kind of walks you through what the TC sees as the doctor is presenting the case. So they're going to select who the coordinator is, who the doc is, who's responsible. You've got insurance codes. It's just so simple to go ahead and plug in so that you can get to that fee presentation once the doctor boogies. They're going to plug those numbers in. They're going to do this, toggle, enter a treatment length, and say, all right, it's going to take us 18 to 22 months to finish this case, because that's tied into the financing terms that they're going to be provided in a little bit. Again, all back end stuff. Your TCs are doing this. And then that's going to take you back to that slider. And then I'll let Cathy go ahead with this. This is what happens when they don't start same day, which in Cathy's practice isn't very often, maybe more down here.
Thanks, Kenneth. Yeah, I mean, we definitely as a team, we strive for same day starts, and OrthoFi really helps us with that, because we can assume the start more easily as a TC when you've got the slider and you can walk in and say, oh, Kenneth, I see you selected $200. So we're just utilizing OrthoFi to increase those same day starts. The pending tool is fantastic. I watch this very closely for myself. I like using it because in the car business, I would have loved to have something like this. I go into my dashboard today, I pull it up, and I see who I need to follow up with. And these are hyperlinks. So it's really easy to be able to just go in, pull up my dashboard, and start clicking and following up with people. We're a big rhinogram office, so we do a lot of texting. And so, I pull up the chart and I start texting the family to, say, hey, Kenneth, it was great meeting you, and let's go ahead and get you started. I have as early as tomorrow at 2:00. Do you want to come in and process your down payment and contract and get your Invisalign ordered?
And that, my friends, is a trick that works. You present them with a couple times and say, pick one. It's a lot harder for them to say no. Cathy taught me that, and it absolutely works. There's no doubt about it.
And then from a management standpoint, I really like being able to, again, like my great mentor taught me, Bridget Burris, and people don't respect what you're not inspecting. And so again, it gives me a better tool to make sure that I'm helping be the best team captain I can be and helping the team. And maybe sometimes it's this time of year, we're trying to start as many patients, we're trying to get all these exams. And maybe this is me seeing it and asking if I can help the treatment coordinators with their follow-up. So
exactly. And you know what? I mean, when we were in July, to be completely candid with everyone, our follow-ups stacked up high as a mountain. But I had, some of the admin folks go in and we use Podium for texting. You guys use Rhinogram, but they went in and cleaned up a lot of those follow-ups for the TC. And then when we got into August, now that things are a little bit slower, we were able to really put some pressure on those follow-ups and get it down to nothing and get a lot of folks scheduled that didn't commit to treatment in July.
One thing I did too last year with the Invisalign only practice is I pulled up the pendings through OrthoFi to create a promotion. And it was so easy for me to go and find all of them. And it was quicker for me to grab them through OrthoFi and pending than it was to create the list through TOPS.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And then you just send them the promotion via Constant Contact or something?
Well, through Rhinogram, through texting.
Oh yeah. Gotcha.
So that was another way I used it as a marketing tool too. It was a pending standpoint. I just think this is a level of awareness that I think we all kind of lack when we don't have it as easy as this in a dashboard, like the dashboard being right there.
Yep. And this next stat, or this little pop-up here, it says practices actually use the OrthoFi penny management tool, which by the way is included in OrthoFi. It's not an add-on, but yeah, they experience 18% higher conversion rates on those non same day starts. And in a 300 start practice, that's an extra 160,000 to the top line. So
again, I think because it's so easy, it's not scary for you as a TC. It's all right there. You just open it up and you work on it.
This is just a little, hopefully you guys can see this one a little bit better. This is what the TCs are using. They're going in and they're sorting by their name, and then they're moving through their patients to touch base with them and try to get them scheduled. I mean, that's the end game for sure. And to Cathy's point, if what you're using right now isn't trackable, if you're not seeing the same conversion post same day with your follow-ups where you want it, and you don't have a thorough follow-up protocol, OrthoFi is a tremendous product for that. And it really is. It's not even one of the key benefits of the product. It is just an add-on that is a real lifesaver for our practice for sure.
I think that's for you and I both as practice managers. It's such a helpful tool for us to be able to ensure that our TCs can be successful. The insurance component, again, I mentioned earlier, it's probably one of my favorite parts of OrthoFi is just, again, it's such a daunting project when you don't have OrthoFi, because I've been there, I've lived it, and chasing my insurance receivables, all the time that gets spent with your team chasing on verifications. Now you can utilize your team for their gifts and strengths, because having them on the phone with Blue Cross Blue Shield all day long is not beneficial to your practice.
And it's bad for retention as well.
Yeah. So again, the insurance part of it is the insurance verifications is absolutely fantastic. It plugs it right into my treatment quote for me. So now I'm not making a mistake with making sure I have the right percentage or having the discount versus not having the discount if it's an insurance company being within the allowable amount and things like that. It's just the accuracy is so much better. But then again, for me, I really, really appreciate the insurance collections and just how it's not a stressor in my life anymore. And it used to always be one of the hardest parts of being a practice manager is staying on top of our insurance receivables.
Well, I think one of the biggest pinch points for us and one of my biggest stressors is this next slide, or at least it used to be. This is really hard to see. I'll admit that, but this is OrthoFi's collections protocol when a payment defaults. And so I don't know how many steps you guys are utilizing right now, but it's probably not this robust. And it's because of this effort right here that our AR, and I'll tell you one thing, the reason that Cathy's is a little bit better than ours is we have the most flexible credit standards that OrthoFi allows. So we're willing to accept a little bit more risk. And as a consequence, we feel like we get a few more starts. But you do pick up some AR that could default, but still beating industry standard by long measure with our delinquent accounts receivable, and it's really because of this. It is absolutely amazing, and it's not just payment failed. Give them a call or an email, but I mean it is call, email, text, certified letter, et cetera, et cetera. So very, very, very slick, very cool. I'm going to kind of just, if you don't mind, Cathy, I'm just going to, unless you got something really passionate about the data and analytics, it's really important for managing your practice to have this kind of visibility this quickly. If you've got folks that are incented on performance, whether they're marketing folks or treatment coordinators, this gives you the tools that you need to make an accurate comp plan for those guys. But I want to just kind of go over this. I know we're running a little bit short on time, and I want to kind of get to the specifics of what OrthoFi has done for our practices here in Atlanta and Cathy's practices in and around Detroit. So I'm gonna cruise past this and dig right into our numbers. And we really feel like these are the important numbers because these are where we saw some pretty significant improvements in terms of how we perform as a practice. You can see our AR, that is delinquent debt. So even at its worst, 2.22% had gone into default. And again, their protocol is so robust that they're able to keep these numbers really, really low and keep your cash flow in really, really good shape. That's our average down payment. You know, a lot of folks are worried that that $250 down payment means you're going to have a hard time paying your lab fees. I get it. But what we're finding is that close to, you know, we're getting close to $1,000 for every start that we have. And there you can see our production change on the right-hand side, 12, 10, 16, 33% year to date this year. Cathy's smoking me there, but we have done that. You know, there's been some economic tailwinds that have moved us along, but we've also had some pretty strong headwinds. I mean, we've had DSOs, we've had other private practices that have opened up. We have more orthodontists here now than we've ever had, and we're still able to see really meaningful growth numbers each and every year that we've had OrthoFi in the practice. And if you jumped on the call late, I'll share it again. But you know, I was looking at our pre-OrthoFi numbers for our busiest month of the year, July. I think it was 56 starts. July of 2019, we started 132 patients, and we absolutely could not have done that without OrthoFi. And that's just the truth, because they allow you to scale up very, very quickly. They allow you to touch and impact patients much faster than you could before, and I think in a better and more meaningful way. So here's Cathy's numbers.
And our starts, we're up since we started with OrthoFi and starts 70.6% from January of 2014 to year to date today.
Wow.
So in 2014, we started a total of 503, and we're at 524 starts today.
Oh.
So we're trending to
Wow.
hopefully hitting, you know, close to 900 this year.
Wow.
And again, it's the ease of making sure that families, they have a great experience. So you're hitting them with the best doctor, the best team, and now you're making the financial part of it. What I love about OrthoFi is the flexibility of them picking their own down payments and monthly payments now becomes a marketing tool for you. So your families, before having flexibility, weren't, other than negatively going to the soccer field and talking about, like, they might be saying, like, can you believe they want me to put 20% down? That's not a positive referral. But now our families, for all of the OrthoFi practices, they're out there saying to other families, you're never going to believe, like, they let us tell them what we were going to pay in a down payment, a monthly payment. So again, cash in hand, the down payment, the average down payment, we're averaging $862 for this year. We have a 65% production growth. Which is just mind blowing. I'm like beyond excited about, but I think again, the default rate being at 1% makes me realize, like, we have more risk we can take in our practice. So Kenneth was talking about how they've taken more risk. We have the ability and are sitting in a position where we could absolutely take on more risk because
Right.
our default rate's so low, and we do have an Invisalign only practice that from day one has had a lab bill for every single patient, and we're still averaging $862. It's just by giving people the ability to decide for themselves. Give them the freedom to make the decision.
And when your slider pops up, you can populate what your average down payment is. And if you want your average down payment to be higher, you just move that number up a little bit. And then you say, you know, before Cathy leaves the room to go to sterilization, you say, yeah, our average down payment's $1,000. And a lot of people pick that. You don't have to. You could do as little as $250. And then you find people, when you say that and you throw out that verbiage, they're a little bit more inclined to pick a higher number. So you can, without pressing, manipulate what that average down payment is. But you know, I think that we're so comfortable with the product and we're so comfortable with the cash flow at this point that we don't really press on that. We let them, like Cathy said, make that decision. So, but I understand it both ways, no doubt. So, last but not least, Cathy.
The interface, I mean, basically in a nutshell, this whole entire last 45 minutes is, you definitely, we have two practices and two very different demographics. You will absolutely grow your business. Your quality of life will increase, your doctor's quality of life, your team's quality of life. Most importantly, your family's experience and quality of experience with you is going to improve so much. And that potentially is a big part of why our growth has been so strong too, because our families are having such a easier experience than what they were anticipating was the worst. You know, when the dentist says it's time to go see the orthodontist, it's like, you know, oh my gosh, you know, it's so expensive. So, you know, that's not the case any longer, you know, when they come to us, and the communities realize this. So it really improves the quality of life and experience for everyone who's who's in the workings of what's happening, your doctor, your team, and most importantly, your families.
All right, guys, that's it. I'm going to unmute all the participants and open the floor up for questions. The next slide is, go back to it, is Cathy's contact information via email, and then mine here at the practice as well. So feel free, guys, if you don't want to ask any questions and you want some feedback, email us and we'll be happy to answer any specific questions that you have. But if anybody would like to ask some questions, go ahead.